Salvete. In this video, we are going to talk about third declension words that are a little bit different. They are declined a little bit differently. These are called I stems. And so right here on this page, I'm not in the Purple Henley book. I am in your grammar book. If you go to our corresponding part, of our Henley book, we're on page 44, the Declension of Pars. And you'll notice that oftentimes in your Henley book, it will refer to your grammar book. So assignment, review the rules in the grammar, numbers 59 through 63. Learn the Declension of Pars, number 58. Note that it is like lex, except in the nominative singular and the genitive plural. Okay, and then there are some words that are similar to that and new vocab for you. So we're going to go there. There, 58 through 63. And remember, it's not the page number. We're on page 10 in our grammar book. So we're not going to go very far in Latin 1 in this book if we're already as far into the year as we are and we're on page 10. So, because we can give a lot of rules in multiple pages. So if you notice, here's lex, so that we can put them side by side. That was our model noun for the first part of learning the third declension. And so we're going to put it side by side with pars. And so let's look at the endings. It goes various is ema, various is ema. So far, looks pretty similar. Ace ibis, ace ibis. Ace ibis, ace ibis. And so they've underlined for you the difference here, right? In the word lex legis, the legum means of the laws. It's a genitive plural, so it means of the laws. Here, we don't just have partum, we have partium. So that addition of an I is where we get the term I stem. Okay, and then also it says the nominative singular is different, but of course you wouldn't know it because it's various anyway. So so really that's the main difference that we want you to look at. But why is it different? Okay, that's the rule that we want you to know, is why it's different. It's not just this word that's special. There are several words like it that in the genitive plural, they're going to get their ium, and we want you to know when to give words their ium instead. And so that's what the remainder of these rules are going to tell us. Rule 59, all masculine and feminine nouns of the third declension are declined like lex, except the following nouns, which have ium in the genitive plural, like partium. And so these are the exceptions. So just know that most nouns are like this. If you're ever in doubt, decline it like lex legis, like the song. These are not going to get its own song because most nouns are like this. So just a few exceptions aren't gonna get a song for you to remember them. Okay, what's one time that you know a noun is going to be declined this way? Nouns that have the same number of syllables in the genitive singular as in the nominative singular. So those are the two pieces of the dictionary form, right? The genitive singular and the nominative singular. And so when you see the dictionary form, if they have the same number of syllables as each other, and there are some, like hostis, hostis, which not only have the same number of syllables, they're actually the same. So the nominative looks like the genitive. The nominative singular looks like the genitive. There are some that are like that. So of course, those are going to be I stems. And so when we say of the enemies, we're going to say hostium. Not just hostum, but hostium. Okay, let's take a look and see which new words are I stems because they have the same number of syllables in their nominative singular and their genitive singular. Pars, partis. They don't have the same number of syllables. This is an I stem for another reason. Colis, colis. Oh, they're the same. That means hill. Hostis, hostis. They're the exact same. Gens, gentis. They're different numbers of syllables. So this word must be an I stem for another reason. And then chedes, chedes. The same number of syllables. So that's an I stem because the same number of syllables. What's the other reason? 61, nouns whose stem, remember the stem doesn't come from the nominative, the stem comes from the genitive, right? Nouns whose stem ends in two consonants as gens, gentis. Yeah, because if I take the is off of gentis, I'm left with gent, nt. So it's two consonants. And so therefore, when we decline gens, gentis, it's going to be gentium of the tribes or of the nations or of the tribes. Okay, and there are exceptions to those rules as well. Okay, there are exceptions to the exceptions. With instead of ium, so words that you would think would get ium, they would look to be like they should be I stems because of these two rules, but nonetheless, they're gonna just have instead are some words. And these aren't going to necessarily show up right away, but sanum, patrum, mensum, matrum, canum, juvenum, and fratrum. I think it's easier to remember fratrum, patrum, matrum, those family words, because they're three family words. So I think that's kind of easy to remember that those are exceptions. And then there are some that have ium instead of virium, litium, faucium, penatium, and it's giving you, see the superscript 1 and the superscript 2 of the old men. So senum, right, it means of the old men. You'd expect to be senium, but of the old men, of the fathers, of the months, of the mothers, of the dogs. Okay, and again, let's not spend too much time on that. So let's look and see why some of these other words. Pars, partis, okay, they have different numbers of syllables, but I can see the stem begins with part, rt. So therefore it's an I stem. Colis, colis, same number of syllables. The stem doesn't begin, or the stem is col. Well, I guess that's kind of both, two L's. I don't know if that really counts though, but hostis, hostis, same number of syllables, and also the stem ends with st. So it's kind of both reasons on that one. Gens, gentis, different number of syllables, but the stem is gent, nt. Chedes, chedes, same number of syllables. The stem does not end in two consonants. So this is just for the same number of syllables. So that's what all of these words have in common. They are I stems, and they're also new to your vocabulary. And so one way that we can remember that hostis, hostis means enemy is hostile. The word hostile means enemy-like. Gens, gentis seems like it should be easy for some reason, but I'm struggling to think of a derivative word. And I don't think I have anything for chedes, chedes. So, but we do, and pars, partis, obviously meaning part. This is just an example of what we were talking about before, about how oftentimes the nominative singular won't make you think anything of the English word, but partis, that's where we get usually this is where our modern day words come from, is they come from all of these ones. So usually the nominative kind of looks a little different. In Spanish, the word hill is colina, but that's not really the same as a derivative. not an English derivative. All right, and so what we are going to do is we are going to look at exercise 45, and we're going to translate about 3 of these here. On account of the welfare of the tribes, exercise 45. On account of the welfare of the tribes. Okay, so on account of, we know is propter. And propter takes the accusative, so we need to know the word for welfare. If we don't know the word for welfare, then we need to look back at our vocab. And we need to keep going. And sometimes the reason students don't remember a word is because it's a word with multiple translations. And they get one, maybe two stuck in their head, but they forget that something can have multiple meanings. So it's salus, salutis. So there's another third declension word, salus, salutis. So I'm going to put the stem, salute, and then we want the accusative ending because accusative singular, because propter takes the accusative, propter salutem, on account of the welfare of the tribes. Now tribes is one of our new words, gens, gentis. We're going to put the gent, or gens, gentis rather, we're going to put the gent. Please excuse my classical pronunciation, trying my best. Propter salutem gent, and of the tribes. Oh, this is the genitive plural, right? So our stem ends in an nt, so it's not going to be gentum, it's going to be gentium. And you know what else is nice about some of these words is that oftentimes things we are familiar with our Catholic faith will just kind of are just easy to remember. And I think of lumen gentium. Lumen is light, and gentium is of the nations. And so lumen gentium stands out. So that way, if anyone ever forgets about this I stem rule and they just put gentum, they can think, oh, that doesn't sound quite right. Oh, I know lumen gentium. And they can just remember, oh yeah, it's an I stem. All right, let's do number 2 from exercise 45. Part of the leaders and soldiers. Okay, part of the leaders and soldiers. Okay, so part is going to be in the nominative, and that's actually our model word. We're supposed to do pars partus. So pars is our nominative, so part of the leaders and the soldiers. So a leader is dux, ducis, and we want of the leaders, and that's a genitive plural. So we're going to do the duch, but dux, ducis, the stem does not end in 2 consonants, and they don't have the same number of syllables, 1 syllable and 2 syllables. This is not an I stem. So we're actually going to go pars ducum, part of the leaders, et, and then soldiers, miles militis, and we're going to go milit. And is miles militis an I stem? Well, miles has 2, militis has 3. The stem is milit. It doesn't end in a consonant cluster here. So I would say this is not an I stem. So militum. So the answer to number 2 is pars ducum et militum, part of the leaders and of the tribes. And I think we can do one more. Number 3. All right, from exercise 45. With the general of the enemy. All right, so these aren't full sentences. So with the general, cum is with, and with takes the ablative, so we need general in the ablative. Now, would dukes be general? Dukes, we tend to remember that that means leader. So what I would do is I would go back again. Imperator, imperatores, right? So the reason we're doing number 2, I almost didn't include number 2 in this video. I wanted to jump to another sentence with a little bit more going on, is that imperator, imperatores, it's easy for people to think emperor, which it does mean that as well. But it says in the book here, it means commander-in-chief. So sometimes you might see commander-in-chief, but it also means general. So if people think of just the one emperor at a time, in Rome, it can just mean general as well. Okay, so we're going to use imperator, imperatores. Now this obviously shows up before we learned about I stems. So guess what? Shortcut, it's not an I stem. So cum imperator. And how does the ablative go? Various is ema. So cum imperatore, of the enemy. So we need a genitive here. What is enemy? Hostis, hostis. So we're going to put host. And hostis, hostis is an I stem, right? It's got the same number of syllables in the nominative and the genitive. And so, but it's genitive plural that changes. So here's the thing. Enemy in English, we often translate enemy as, we often say enemy singular in English, even though we're referring to multiple people, like the enemy is making camp. That doesn't mean one individual is making camp, right? And so if what we mean is multiple people, then we need to put the plural. So therefore we would need to put hostium. So here's my question. Is this general the general of one enemy soldier? Does he have one enemy soldier under his command? No, probably he has multiple enemy soldiers in his command. Just because we don't say of the enemies, we say of the enemy, we kind of combine it into one, doesn't mean Latin does the same thing. So we are going to actually say hostium, of the enemies, even though in English we sometimes just always use the singular. So cum imperatore hostium, with the general of the enemies. Okay, the rest I think you should be able to do just fine.